Joining us now to explain the problem with pollution control standards in the country is Greenpeace Africa's climate and energy campaigner, Bukelwa Nzimande. Thanks very much for your time, Bukelwa. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika. So if government is to be believed, the context where we'll find that there are about 500 milligrams per cubic meter as a standard is highly unlikely. Given that, how much time do we have with the 100 mark that's been introduced? 1,000, I beg your pardon.
So the reasoning that's been given is that newer plants will keep to the old standard, which is the 500, as you mentioned. But the older plants, and the thing with power plants is that they have a lifetime, like everything, and at a particular stage, due to different challenges or basically a plant reaching its end of life, they have to be decommissioned. Then we have a fleet, like a large number of these power plants that have reached their age and are actually meant to be decommissioned in the short term. And these are the ones that are unable, well, using the words of the department, to meet the 500 cap or limit. And basically what they're saying is that the polluters can continue to pollute without even fitting the necessary equipment due to either costs or various different things. But that is basically going to start in this month, where the ones that have been given the 1,000 or the doubling can continue to pollute without keeping that pollution in check.
Perhaps it's worth actually taking a step back, right? Explain to us where the emission standards are right now, what they've been revised to, and what the environmental concerns are because of that.
Yes. So for the longest time, I mean, South Africa has had an air pollution problem, and a lot of these standards were not in check or kept in check. If you look at the sulfur dioxide standards when we started off, they were sitting at about 3,500, which really was not on par with any of the other countries, I mean, that you can use as sort of a bar as a case study. If we're looking at the standards as they stand now, let's say 1,000, for example, those standards are 10 times higher than 10 times and even 30 times higher than what you see in India and in China. And that is based on science, so we're assuming that when a department, for example, like DEF, is setting a standard, it will be based on science, but it will be based on studies that will look at the environmental impacts before setting a specific standard, as well as the health impacts. And in our minds, that has not been done. We've challenged the weakening or the doubling of these standards on that premise that the department hasn't shown enough evidence around the impacts to the environment, but not only that, but also to the health of the people who would be exposed to that pollution. So even in the decrease that we're seeing, and it may be painted as a positive, it's a decrease from 3,500 to 1,000, but even in that, what are you using as a benchmark to say 1,000 makes sense? It's a decrease for sure, and there is going to be some level of improvement, but is it enough? Is it enough to save lives? Is it enough to be healthy? Or basically, is it enough to make sure that the air that South Africans, especially in the areas where they are most exposed, are safe and are breathing clean air? It's definitely not.
Yeah, and I guess some people might ask whether it might make sense to gradually decrease to 500 milligrams per cubic meter. Would that be a viable option?
So let's use the current crisis that we're facing now, the public health crisis. When we're looking at the stats and the numbers, all of us every day are alarmed by the increase of infections, right? But at the same time, we are alarmed by the number of deaths, which means that people are dying. And for us, as Greenpeace Africa, it does not make sense, even a gradual increase, or decrease rather, for as long as people are at risk, people's health and people's well-being are at risk. And we've released a number of reports that have basically highlighted that due to the toxic air that people are breathing, specifically in the hotspots in Mpumalanga and Creole, where those are the people who are breathing this air, there are children that are growing from a very young age until their adult life and are breathing this toxic air. And there are lives that you can put to it. A life is not worth losing because industries cannot pay, or industries are not in a financial position to be able to install, because it's possible. It's deaths that can basically be cannot happen. If the industries who are responsible are taking the necessary measures.
Right. Let's speak about the numbers. I mean, you're absolutely right. One death is one too many. But given the current context that we're likely to work in, what are the actual threats to life that you guys are foreseeing?
Yeah, so you can attribute the pollution. For example, I'll use sulfur dioxide, which is the toxic chemical that we're speaking about. Sulfur dioxide, when you breathe it in, firstly it interacts with your skin even before you breathe it in, and then it compromises on your cardiovascular system as well as your respiratory system. So you can imagine that somebody who probably wouldn't be asthmatic, but because they're constantly breathing this toxic chemical, which also forms particulate matter, which clogs your airways. So there are a number of diseases that one can attribute to that, which can then lead to one, premature death. They can lead to premature births of mothers who are pregnant, for example, and can also lead to more hospital visits. Pointing back to some of the studies that we've conducted, the recent one, which basically attributes the cost of the burning of fossil fuels, linking it specifically to health. So that looks at people basically not being able to work because they are missing work days because of either chest issues or breathing issues or increased chances of diabetes and so forth. So when you attribute basically the long-term exposure or the number of children that would die prematurely. I mean, worldwide, it's estimated that thousands of children die before they reach the age of 5 due to exposure. And this looks at specifically areas that are located in the hotspots or the peaks of pollution. So the numbers are quite high. And I mean, with this increase to 1,000, for example, for sulfur dioxide, we're expecting over 3,300 an estimate per year of more deaths that are linked to diseases that result from the exposure of air pollution.
Sure.
Yeah, which is a big number.
Certainly a cause for concern. We'll leave it there at least for now. Thanks very much for your time and your insights. That's Bukelwa Nzimande, who's Greenpeace's climate and energy campaigner.